the Northern Kentucky NAACP Lawyers Luncheon, and to see these high school students and these young lawyers on their way to their path to the legal community. I have the privilege of bringing to the front of the room today an amazing, extraordinary woman who has blazed a trail for these high school students and these young law students to follow. Ms. Charlene Boltz is a professor at Salmon P. Chase College of Law, Northern Kentucky University. She's a native of Ewing Township, New Jersey, and has received her BA from Brown University and her JD from the University of Michigan Law School. Prior to teaching, Professor Boltz practiced law as a trial attorney in the Office of General Counsel for the United States Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C., and in private practice in New Orleans, Louisiana. In 1991, she began her law teaching career at Chase College of Law in the area of commercial law. In 1997, she became the first African-American woman to receive tenure and promotion to full professor in the 108-year history of the law school. Professor Boltz served as the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs from 2000 to 2003, and thus became the first African-American to serve as an administrator in the law school. Professor Boltz currently teaches in the areas of commercial and domestic violence law. Her scholarship is focused on the use of threat assessment methodologies by law enforcement to prevent domestic violence homicide. Professor Boltz volunteers with the Northern Kentucky Women's Crisis Center and serves on the Northern Kentucky Partnership Against Trafficking of Humans Protocol Team, which provides training to law enforcement and community organizations and other support services for victims. She has recently been appointed to the Board of Directors for the Ohio Alliance for Ending Sexual Violence. In 2011, she completed her training with Gavin DeBecker and Associates Advanced Threat Assessment and Case Management Academy, and in 2012, she graduated from the FBI Citizens Academy. Most recently, she is the author of 2 instructional case files on domestic human trafficking, one entitled Case Files in Black and Blue, In Re Jules and LaSalle Blandale, and the other, In Re Case Files in Black and Blue, In Re AJ in D.C. Please join me in welcoming and bringing to the front of the room this extraordinary lady, Professor Charlene Graham Boltz.
Hello, hello. Hello. You can tell that I am used to teaching very large classes, so I have no problem speaking loud enough for you all to hear me. It is quite an honor and a great pleasure to be with you today, and I have to thank Jerome for this invitation. I won't tell you how long I've known Jerome, but it's been a while. But I also want to thank the Northern Kentucky Bar Association and the Northern Kentucky Foundation and the NAACP. I have to tell you, I wish my parents had lived to see this day. They would have been very excited about this opportunity. But I'm further blessed by my friend, Justice Michelle Keller from the Kentucky Supreme Court, my husband, Jay, who left work to be here and to record as the instruction of my children. My children, my students, my friends, colleagues from Chase and NKU, and, of course, you all. My goal today is to speak for a few minutes, but then to definitely open the door for a few minutes of questions. So you can be thinking about your questions, and there are no limits on what your question will be. So be challenged by that. So Jerome assigned to me the task of addressing 3 specific issues. First, why I chose to become an attorney, why I chose to become a professor, and finally, why diversity is important to the legal profession, all in 10 to 15 minutes. So you will understand that to synthesize now 30 years as a lawyer, 24 years as a law professor, and 54 years, I will just be candid to say, on this particular life journey, in a few minutes is a challenge, but I will accept it. But the simple answer to all of those questions is simply this. I am who I am, and I do what I do because I answered a call. I answered a call to fulfill a purpose that had been placed on my life. A call from the God that I believe in, who guides me, who protects, challenges, sometimes pushes me along this life journey. And with that call, I have chosen to contribute my diversity to a legal profession which greatly needed it, and continues to require a constant infusion of what I call cultural competence to achieve the ideals of justice. And that infusion continues to be needed. So who am I and how did I get here? Well, as you can tell, I am a woman of mixed ethnicity. Did you notice the freckle? Okay. My ancestry is African, Cherokee, and European. I am more than my gender. I am more than my ethnicity, because I possess a unique combination of life experiences. And those life experiences have given me a perspective and have informed my role as a lawyer and a teacher. So let me share just a few of them with you. And to some of my students who have heard a couple of these stories before, don't roll your eyes. So in 1966, I was 6 years old in first grade. And my class was required to complete forms in order to obtain our Social Security cards. Because at that time, you did not receive your Social Security number at birth. Each child was asked to designate their racial identities. And my parents had not been shy about sharing my mixed ethnicity, so neither was I. So I checked all that applied. My teacher promptly removed me from the classroom, sent me to the principal's office. The principal then called my father from work, so you knew I was in trouble, and asked him to come to school to collect me. My father arrived. The principal promptly told him that the problem was that I did not know who I was. My father looked at me and smiled and said, "She knows." In 1972, I was 12 years old then, the Vietnam War ended. But at that time, I became politically aware. I read voraciously. History, politics, anything I could get my hands on. And it was then that I decided that to be a lawyer was the right decision for me to provoke the kind of change and equality that I thought should exist. I'll just say my father prayed over me a lot. However, later on, I sought to attend an Ivy League college. And my high school counselor told me that my dream of attending an Ivy League school was impossible because, as they said, quote, "No one from this neighborhood goes to an Ivy League college." But my mother had prayed over me, and my father told me to not allow anyone to take me off the track. Not to allow anyone to do that. So I attended Brown University. And at graduation, I was the senior class order for my graduation. But a trustee member approached me and said that my color was a handicap that I would have to overcome. She was wrong. Because what that trustee did not understand was that my color, what I look like, who I am, was part of a divine plan with a purpose, and I was on a mission. So I attended the University of Michigan Law School. I graduated became a trial attorney, as you've heard, involved in commercial litigation. Then I became a law professor, teaching contracts and commercial law. But I also had a life experience. And that life experience was with domestic violence and the intimate partner homicide of my sorority sister. Both experiences awakened me to the needs of victims of abuse. Because you see, my father told me that my home needed to be the one place where I was not afraid to be. So fast forward, and I had an encounter with a magistrate. And the magistrate complained to someone that I was an overeducated black woman who did not know her place. And yet, I know my place. I know who I am and who I serve. My voice, my experiences, my faith, my gender combine to provide a unique, diverse perspective to address the needs of women, girls, boys, and men who are victimized by abuse and trafficking in this country. I know who I am, I know whose I am, and I abhor bullies, whether they wear jeans, a suit, a badge, or a robe. I teach, I write, I speak, I advocate for those who cannot. I am a lawyer, I am a professor, I am also a mom, a daughter, a wife, a sister, a friend. I am someone who has chosen to answer the call on my life. But I am not alone. Each of you has a call on your life. Each of you were born with a purpose. Each of you share a degree of diversity which is valuable and desperately needed, especially in the law. I was born for such a time as this, and so are you. You are not here by accident. You have a unique combination of gifts, talents, abilities, and ethnicities, which are valuable, and the world needs you. Hopefully, as lawyers. A little biased there. But in whatever capacity you choose, this is why you matter. This is why diversity matters. The similarities in our common human experience operate to enable us to connect to one another. However, it is our differences that enable us to grow and to transform into something better. This is why I stand here today, to encourage you to allow no human to define you or limit you from being all that you are created to be. I pray that all of you approach your life journey with wisdom, with courage, and the humility to receive the support necessary to achieve your goals. Gandhi has said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." So be it, and safe journey. Questions, please do not hesitate to ask. I think I still have a few minutes, my timekeeper.
You mentioned the story about the trustee that approached you, I guess, was it your college or law school graduate?
Cal College, yeah.
Now, and you also said earlier at the table that you have a daughter. Do you think that your daughter would encounter similar obstacles or anything like that, and if so, how would she
does.
Okay.
She actually does. Because of our mixed ancestry, my daughter is actually a redhead with freckles, literally. And you know, in many instances, I think in her travels she has been deemed to be ethnically ambiguous to the extent to which people are not sure how to categorize her as an ethnicity. But she embraces that. Now, my son looks like he came right off the reservation. He has very, very Cherokee facial features, which come from my father's family. And, you know, and he has a different path. He is easily categorized. And his journey is going to be different from my daughter. But both of them, I encourage them to be true to themselves. You know, when people have often asked me who are my mentors, to be honest with you, I had a few advisors along the way, but my path was my own path. The decisions I made were my decisions. And I do not have many family members who have taken similar steps before me. So I could not rely on them necessarily. But I had to be humble enough to take advice when it was available and to be strategically astute. And that's what I tell my children to do. Thanks. Any other questions? Come on, students.
As people get smarter and we all begin to learn more and the intelligence in the world advances, barriers are more difficult to recognize that will hold back people of diverse natures. So how do we overcome that, not as an individual, because that can be easily done, or a little bit easier done, but as a community?
As a community, I think we have to communicate with each other better, right? There are people who have learned strategies and techniques, and I don't care what they look like. There are people who have struggled and persevered and who have gained positions in society. They have had to navigate challenges, and they have something to bring to the table, and you must be open to that wisdom and knowledge, right? You must be willing to ask, how did you do it? How did you feel when? And I don't care whether the question is how to parent, because it does take a village. I can certainly attest to that. Or whether to have a healthy relationship, because some of us did not have that as models in our families. Some of the individuals I counsel, their family structures were not optimal, but they can still learn. And if they want to change, they will take those steps. And so I hope that even in this technological age, that we will not forget the power of human connection and human communication, because that is invaluable. Learning to read faces, learning to read body language, learning to understand each other is very important. You had a question?
I was going to ask your opinion on what you felt was the kind of most relevant issue of inequality facing female lawyers or minority lawyers or female minority lawyers. Any of those categories.
Well, for women of any ethnicity, it is still the work-life balance and making those sorts of challenges. You know, as a trial attorney, I work those 90 hours a week. And to be honest, I came to teaching not necessarily to spend less time, but to have more flexibility with my time, to be the kind of parent that I wanted to be. And that was a conscious decision that I made. Now that they're out of the nest, I can, you know, my husband and I can think about something else to do, right? Where we go next. But I think that that's, you know, all of those decisions continue to be there. I think for individuals of color, having practiced law in Louisiana, being called a Yankee, being called a few other things, it is obviously we continue to face certain challenges. Certain individuals lack the education and experience to interact cross-culturally, and that's a problem that as professionals we will continue to address. And I think there's also the issue of just how we are perceived. If people are more concerned with comparison and acquisition, and I mean that in terms of comparing themselves with others and how much can I acquire in this universe, then they will miss the true richness of personal interaction and personal growth. And I think that comparison and that acquisition prevents us from and challenges us to be all that we are supposed to be as individuals, as opposed to really trying to put someone else down to get an advantage and those sorts of other challenges. So I think those things still exist. As a trial lawyer, my best resources were the Bible and the Art of War, and by Sun Tzu. But I still think that there's a lot to be learned. There's a lot to be learned out there. So, good question. How about my high school students? Any questions from you guys? No? You sure? Yes.
I just have a simple question. What's the Rory that you
Uh-oh.
I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta. along with the soon-to-be Attorney General of the United States. Any other questions?
That's really cool, by the way. I love
Right. But I do thank you all for, you sure you don't have any other questions? Okay. I do want to thank you all for allowing me to speak to you today. I have said very frequently, and my children certainly know, I've had other places that I could have gone, and I could have set up my roots and could have spent my time and talents. But I chose Chase College of Law over Notre Dame. Because I believed in the mission of that law school to reach out to non-traditional populations and to really provide those kinds of opportunities. And those core values are the reason I stayed here for 24 years. And I'm committed to this university and the population as well. I spend a lot of time in the community teaching a wide variety of things, from banking to domestic violence issues and human trafficking. And I train law enforcement also. And there's a lot of work to be done there. So don't shun your community. Don't think too negatively about your community. It is a growth process, and it will continue to be so. And I thank you.